Join us at the Nats Chat Hangout at Walters on Wednesday, August 6th. We'll get started at 5 p.m. prior to the game against the Athletics. Come share your early thoughts on the Mike DiBartolo era.
A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
He comes set. And the pitch, swinging to drive it well to right center field. Back goes Hassel to the warning track, looking up. It's going, and gone. Goodbye. Bryce Turang with his 7th home run of the year lands that one in section 141. And the Brewers just continue to pound the baseball. 2-run homer here in the top of the second for Turang. And it's now Milwaukee 3 and Washington nothing.
He deals, swinging a fly ball right field deep. Hasselback to the warning track, looking up, and it's gone into the Nationals bullpen. Second homer of the game for Turang makes it 12-1 Milwaukee. They've scored 7 runs here in the top of the 7th. Turang in this game with homers 7 and 8, a pair of 2-run shots.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. The circumstances of the Nats series against the MLB-leading Milwaukee Brewers at Nationals Park over the weekend were not ideal, yet the Nats, having just engaged in 5 sell-side trades in the lead-up to the 2025 MLB trade deadline, facing the best team in the majors, and the result, perhaps not shockingly, was rough. Sunday afternoon, a 14-3 loss to the Brewers to complete a 3-game sweep. This was a game in which the Nats allowed the Brewers to score 7 runs in the top of the 7th. This was a series in which the Nats got outscored 38-14. The Nats now have lost 5 consecutive games. The Nats in MLB's regular season now are 44-67. That's another new low point, 23 games below 500. Second worst record in the National League. The run differential now at minus 134. Second worst run differential in the NL. And the Brewers for this regular season are 67-44, the best mark in MLB. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by the great Mason Kalfas, the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason has been with us since our first season. You can reach Mason at 202-486-3535. Mark, it's funny. The Nats pitching the previous weekend and winning 2 out of 3 games at the Minnesota Twins was really good. That, in fact, was maybe the Nats' best pitched series of the season. We then had the trade deadline, and perhaps not so coincidentally, the Nats pitching in this series against the Brewers made for maybe the Nats' worst pitched series of this season.
Well, I think we have to acknowledge that the competition got upped just a little bit. Milwaukee versus Minnesota. This is a really good Brewers team that, as you said, has the best record in baseball and really puts together quality at bats. And you saw that all weekend. However, we talked about this at the trade deadline. While there was plenty of reason and rationale, and they did the right thing in trading away Kyle Finnegan, Andrew Chafin, and Luis Garcia, they chose to get rid of their only 3 arguably reliable, experienced relievers, guys who were going to be free agents at the end of the year. And of course, those were the right moves to make for the situation you're in. But we knew that they were going to be left with a major hole in a bullpen that already has been patchwork all year long. And what you saw this weekend, not just Sunday, but all weekend long, was the residual effect of all that. And it's going to be 2 months of this. Maybe the competition gets a little better. Maybe the Sacramento A's, who they're about to face, aren't quite as imposing as the Milwaukee Brewers. But it's hard to see how they're going to win games with this bullpen. They haven't even had a chance to give that bullpen a lead yet. Probably for the best, because that could be even harder to swallow. But it's really, really ugly. And the prospect of another 51 games with this bullpen is currently constructed is awfully daunting. And it's going to make this a very tough 2 months to watch, I'm afraid.
This already was one of the worst bullpens in Nats history. You know, you shiver at the thought of what the numbers could end up being come the end of this season, given the bullpen having been further weakened by the trades. I do want to say this, though, about the Brewers. I think the Brewers are one of the most resilient teams in sports, and I think the Brewers are exactly the kind of organization that the Nats should be studying right now. The Brewers in October 2022 lost their president of baseball operations, David Stearns. He stepped down. He in October 2023 was hired by the New York Mets to be their president of baseball operations. The Brewers in November 2023 lost their manager, Craig Counsell. He left to become the Chicago Cubs manager. Both David Stearns and Craig Counsell, two highly respected guys, upped and left, said, "We don't want to be here anymore. We'd rather be somewhere else." And yet the Brewers, who don't exactly have a sky-high payroll, are in the midst of a 9th consecutive winning season. The faces change, the names change, the circumstances have been rather trying at times, but all this team does is win. There is a culture, there is a process in place that works. And, you know, as the Nats are in the midst of, in theory, reshaping things, hopefully reshaping a lot of things, I think this is exactly what you look at. An organization that is resilient, that regardless of the circumstance, figures out how to do well. The Brewers do that. The Nats are trying to get there.
And what did they do when those two key people left? For, let's be clear, greener pastures, and by green, I mean money, that the New York Mets and the Chicago Cubs offered to David Stearns and Craig Counsell, bigger market teams that could afford to poach them away. How did they replace them? In-house. They promoted Matt Arnold, who was Stearns' guy, to GM. He's done a fantastic job since then. They promoted Pat Murphy, their bench coach, a veteran guy, been around baseball a long time, to manager. They haven't lost a beat. That's a great credit to the organizational stability that they have there. And I'll take it a step further when it comes to the roster, and we'll get to this. But Sunday's game was supposed to be started by Jacob Misiorowski, the phenom rookie who was an all-star after only a handful of major league appearances. I'll tell you, I was disappointed to find out that he was placed on the IL earlier in the morning with a bruised shin. I was kind of excited to see him, see what this is all about. The guy they called up from AAA to replace him, Logan Henderson, came into this game with a 3-1 record and 171 ERA and way more strikeouts than innings pitched in 4 career big league starts. He was at AAA for them. Talk about having organizational pitching depth to be able to suffer the blow of your young phenom going on the IL and just having somebody you could call up who steps right in and pitch just as well as Misiorowski would have. That's a tremendous tribute to what the Brewers have built there. And it's why they should be considered right there with the Dodgers and the Mets and the Phillies and anybody else that's going to be in contention at the end of the year.
Yeah, and that is organizational resilience. You are handed a tough deal, right? Your rookie phenom, you have to place him on the 15-day IL on the morning of a start, and you go right to somebody else. He pitches well, and you end up not only winning, but winning in blowout fashion. Logan Henderson in this game on Sunday afternoon, 1 run in 4 and a third innings. The Nats in this game, just 3 runs, just 7 hits, which were 3 doubles and 4 singles. The Nats did work 4 walks, did go 3 for 7 with runners in scoring position, but this was another game in which the offense was not good enough. And, you know, the final score was 14-3. The Nats scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th in what was clearly garbage time. The Nats did this on Friday evening, too. They scored 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th in what was garbage time there. So even like whatever good numbers you can cobble together for the Nats offensively in this game, those numbers do come with an asterisk. We did see Dalen Lyle in the number 5 spot in interim manager Miguel Cairo's lineup have 2 hits. He went 2 for 4 with a couple of singles. Drew Millis was the Nats starting catcher in this game. He went 2 for 4 with a 2-run double and another double, although he did commit a throwing error. But just a really underwhelming game in what was mostly a really underwhelming series offensively for this team. And, you know, I was thinking about this on Sunday. The Nats are in dire need of more pitching depth. They also are in dire need of more offensive firepower. I don't know what you would classify as the bigger need. It's not an either-or proposition. You certainly want to excel in both categories, and you certainly can go after both categories and try to improve in both categories. But what would you say is the bigger need for this team? Because the team is so lacking in organizational pitching depth, but as we are seeing, the team continues to be so lacking in offensive firepower.
Yeah, I think how I would answer that is like this. In theory, they have the hitters, the young hitters, to be a productive lineup. Now, they have not done that with consistency at all. And we've seen here how when James Wood slumps, they just don't have enough else. But in theory, a lineup that includes C.J. Abrams, James Wood, Brady House, Dylan Cruz, some combination of Dalen Lyle, Robert Hassel III, that should be something to work with. That should be something to be relatively excited about. You need to add to that, of course, with some more experienced hitters. They thought they were doing that in the offseason with Nathaniel Lowe and Josh Bell. That hasn't worked out nearly as well as hoped. But that, at least on paper, sounds like it should have the makings of a productive lineup, and not just in the short term, but in the long term. The rotation, as currently constructed, is Mackenzie Gore, as you've described, not a whole lot else to get excited about. Maybe Jake Irvin, maybe Josiah Gray when he comes back, maybe Mitchell Parker at some point here, maybe Cade Cavalli one of these days, although the clock is certainly ticking there. And with each passing day that he doesn't get called up, it looks worse and worse. Brad Lord has been a nice little find for them, but we don't really know what he is in the bigger picture. So to me, the lack of higher ceiling starting pitching is the bigger concern. It's Mackenzie Gore, and you're going to have to supplement him with something this winter that gets you excited. Somebody who can really step in there and give you a good chance to win on a regular basis. Yes, they need more offense. They need more consistency on offense. But I do still say that they have 4 or 5 young guys who should be able to come together and give them a chance to produce on a regular basis. They don't have that on the pitching side of the equation right now.
Hey, are you a law firm partner or associate looking to transition to a new firm because of compensation, or your firm recently committed to $100 million in pro bono work that you disagree with? Or maybe your firm is employing people like Jerickson Profar while your competitor firms are using torpedo bats and smoking the competition. If this sounds like you should explore the lateral market and give Mason Kalfas a call. Mason is the top legal recruiter in the Washington, D.C. area. He has been a Nats Chat podcast advertiser since the beginning of our show. Mason will work with you to create a marketing and business plan to pitch to new firms and dramatically increase your compensation and or day-to-day happiness in your new job. Mason has placed partners and associates in just about every large law firm in D.C. and New York, and he can provide plenty of testimonials from candidates he has placed on the outstanding service that they received. You need a strong advocate in your corner to find the best law firm out there for your future career. Call Mason Kalfas today, 202-486-3535.
These statements have not been reviewed by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Do these 3 words make you cringe? Calcium oxalate stones. If so, then this message will be a huge relief, because now there's a kidney health supplement that has shown in laboratory tests to reduce the rate of calcium oxalate crystal growth by 99%. That's right, 99%. It's called Kidney Cop, Calcium Oxalate Protector, and nothing else comes close to its success. In fact, it has a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Kidney Cop is so innovative, it's been awarded 5 U.S. patents, is recommended by doctors and pharmacists, and is winning rave reviews from people all over the country. You can be one of them. Kidney Cop is super affordable. You can purchase affordable Kidney Cop today by visiting Amazon.com, Walmart.com, or KidneyCop.com. If you cringe when you hear the words calcium oxalate and you worry about reoccurrence, then you need Kidney Cop right away. Purchase Kidney Cop today at Amazon.com, Walmart.com, or KidneyCop.com.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Here's a swing and a line drive. It's a base hit down the left field line into the corner. This will score Adams. This will score Lyle. Into third is Hassel. And into second with a 2-run double is Drew Millis. Second two-base hit of this game and third of the big leagues this year. He drives in his fourth and fifth runs. Now the Brewers 14 and the Nationals 3.
This did end up being another underwhelming series for him. His slump does continue. Wood on Sunday afternoon as the Nats starting DH and number 2 batter, 0 for 3 with a walk and 2 strikeouts. He in the series went 1 for 11 with a single and 2 walks. As we discussed on the last installment of the podcast, he did get jobbed in the game on Saturday with 2 strikeouts, each of which was bogus. But still, he went 0 for 4 in that game. He on Friday evening went 1 for 4 with a single and a walk. So, yeah, I mean, we're now multiple days into August, and we're still waiting on James Wood to do well. And, you know, you just mentioned it, but him struggling really just takes everything down a notch with this team offensively. You maybe don't recognize it in the moment when he's doing really well, how dependent this team is on him. You know, because at least you did have C.J. Abrams doing well, too. So you maybe said, all right, you know, it can be halfway decent offensively with these 2 guys leading the way. But Wood struggling just has changed everything with this team offensively.
And it's not just the lack of home runs. He's not hitting those. Of course, you love those as well, but he's just not getting on base nearly as much. When he was going well and getting on base at such a high clip with the walks, singles, doubles, and homers, he's giving the guys behind him opportunities to drive in runs. And you just don't see that happen right now because he's not getting on base hardly at all. So I think it starts there. I think certainly Abrams isn't really clicking the way that he was earlier on. Garcia, Lowe, Bell's probably their best hitter at the moment, which says a lot. But, I mean, ultimately, they need James Wood. Even if he's not in peak form, they need him to at least provide some kind of threat at the plate, and he is just not providing that right now. And he's fighting through it. There's a little glimmers here and there. He hit a couple balls really hard to left center and center field in this series. He's still striking out a lot. He looks frustrated up there, taking pitches, missing pitches that you would think he would normally hit. He's got a long way to go still. That's task number 1, I think, for this team right now. Get James Wood back on track, and I think that solves a lot of other problems once that happens.
It's tough, too, because if he was having an OPS of 7-something over the last 6 weeks, you could live with that. It's not what he's supposed to be, but you could live with that. It's that he has so plummeted in terms of the production. Like, he's gone from posting an OPS deep into the 900s to now, since the start of July, the OPS is in, the 500/600s. And that's just, you can't have that. Like, that's unacceptable with a guy that good and a guy that important to this Nats offense. So Brad Lord was the Nats starting pitcher in this 14-3 loss to the Brewers on Sunday afternoon. This was his 3rd start since rejoining the Nats rotation. He allowed 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings. He gave up 6 hits, which were a home run and 5 singles. He issued 2 walks. He did record 6 strikeouts, and he did throw a good number of strikes, 92 pitches, 58 strikes, 34 balls. So a lot of pitches, but also a lot of strikes. Lord in the top of the 2nd gave up a 2-out, 2-run homer by Bryce Terang to right field for a 3-0 Brewers lead. By the way, for those who don't know, Bryce Terang is the brother-in-law of Washington Commanders punter Tress Way. So there you go. The more you know. But with Brad Lord, so we had talked about the need for him to get stretched out. It's kind of funny. He ends up getting stretched out in this game, although not in a way that you particularly like, him having to throw 92 pitches over 4 2/3 innings.
So his last start in Houston, he goes 5 1/3, and he throws only 59 pitches to get there. Incredibly efficient and actually reached the 6th inning. So what happens this time? The pitch count goes way up to 92, but he doesn't even get out of the 5th inning. So the path there was very different and not necessarily what you're looking for. Silver lining, he did build up to 92 pitches. He said his arm still felt good at the end of all that, and he feels like, and I think rightfully so, by the time he makes his next start now, he's stretched out. He is back on a starter's workload again. It happened probably faster than most of us would have thought it would. He's been overall effective this game, not as much. Credit to the Brewers, as we said. They grind out at bats. They battled him. They forced him to throw a lot of pitches. He didn't have his best fastball, but to get 6 strikeouts against that lineup is still pretty good. I'm coming away from all this still relatively encouraged. 3 starts in, He's gotten up to 92 pitches. He's been mostly effective. Now let's see what he can do. I think it's time to now really start evaluating Brad Lord as he gets on a true starter schedule, approaching 100 pitches every time, hopefully giving you 5 plus even 6 innings each time he takes them out. And hopefully he still has the success that we saw from him when he was in the bullpen.
Yeah, and something that really is a commentary on the nature of the Nats starting pitching in this series. This was the best outing that the team got from a starting pitcher in this series, given what happened with Mitchell Parker and Jake Irvin over games 1 and 2, respectively, in this series. And then there is the Nats bullpen in this game and in this series. We may well have reached a new level of bad with this bullpen this season in this series. Nats relievers in this series combined to allow 22 runs, 19 earned in 14 and a third innings. When it came to this game on Sunday afternoon, you had 6 Nats relievers combining to allow 11 runs, 10 earned in 4 and a third innings. Connor Pilkington officially allowed 2 runs, 1 earned in a third of an inning. He in the top of the 6th was charged with 2 runs, 1 earned off beginning the inning by issuing a walk and giving up an infield single. Cole Henry officially tossed a scoreless and hitless inning, but he in that Brewers 2-run 6 committed a throwing error on a pickoff attempt and issued a walk and a wild pitch. And also during his time of the game was a run-scoring throwing error by catcher Drew Millis. Zach Brzykcy, he officially allowed 6 runs in a third of an inning. He in what ended up being a 7-run 7th for the Brewers was charged with 6 runs as he gave up 3 singles and issued 2 walks, a hit by pitch, and a wild pitch. Brzykcy in this appearance, 23 pitches, 10 strikes versus 13 balls. Ryan Loutos, he officially allowed 1 run in 2/3 of an inning, but he in that Brewers 7-run 7th to the first batter he faced gave up a 1-out 2-run homer by Bryce Terang to right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 12-1 Brewers lead. And the Nats shortly after the game announced having optioned Loutos to AAA Rochester. Jose A. Ferrer, he allowed 2 runs in 1 inning. He in the top of the 8th allowed 2 runs on a walk, 2 singles, and a double. And Andre Lara mercifully gave us a scoreless top of the 9th, although he in that inning gave up a 1-out double and issued a 1-out walk. So already one of the call-ups off the trade deadline, Ryan Loutos, has been sent back down to AAA Rochester, given his struggles over the weekend.
You could have picked one of several from this game, from this weekend, who you would say warranted a demotion. He wound up being the guy. Look, we've seen him a handful of times now in a couple of stints up here. It has not been pretty. There really hasn't been anything to get excited about that midseason pickup. It was really ugly, but you could say the same about a lot of what they've had up here, and this is what they have to work with now. It's not good. They're going to try to do a few things. They claimed a guy off waivers right before the start of the game, PJ Poulin, a left-hander from the Tigers who had been DFA'd just the other day because the Tigers had to clear 40-man roster spots for their trade deadline acquisitions, including Kyle Finnegan. The Nats swoop in, claim him off waivers. He's 29. He's a lefty. He had really good numbers, especially strikeout numbers at AAA in Toledo. They didn't announce where he's being assigned, but when you see the Loutos move, it would make you at least believe there's a good chance that we're going to see him here on Tuesday as the replacement for him. Who knows what he'll be? It's going to be a revolving door. I hope they don't just stick with what they have. I hope they try out as many different potential arms as they can. You got to find a handful of capable arms somewhere out of all this. Try to start to piece together the makings of a 2026 bullpen. Chances are whoever's in charge this winter is going to have to do a complete overhaul anyways and sign guys who are not currently in the organization. But you need some group of these young guys to step up enough to suggest that they could be part of the plan moving forward. And what we've seen here since the trade deadline, it's hard to get excited about any of them, to be honest.
Given the weakened state of this bullpen, do you think Miguel Cairo will at all alter his approach of using a lot of relievers for a little bit of time in each game? Now, this game on Sunday afternoon is not a good case study because everyone struggled. But in other words, if you have a reliever and you put him in the game and your intent is to use him for an inning, and he looks really good, and he doesn't throw many pitches, do you maybe say, okay, go out there for the next inning, as opposed to keep cycling through your bullpen? Because inevitably, people are going to, quote-unquote, not have it. And so if you happen to stumble upon someone who does, quote-unquote, have it for a game, are you maybe now more apt to stick with the guy because you know that the other guys are just not trustworthy and the likelihood of them having it is unlikely?
I think it's a fine line you have to walk there. Yes, you could say, hey, let's just throw out a name. Say it's a Cole Henry and he has a real quick 1, 2, 3, 6th inning. Do you say, hey, come on back out for the 7th? Well, you run the risk of it falling apart for him in the 7th, and now maybe you've shot whatever confidence he had from a nice quick 1, 2, 3, 6 that could turn his season around, that kind of thing. So I could see it both ways of that. I mean, I suppose the saving grace of this weekend is that none of these guys is really pitching in high leverage spots. So we haven't seen what might happen if that were the case. If it was, maybe you do stick with them because you actually have a chance to win the game. Here, you just had a parade of relievers just get us through the rest of this game, try to keep it close. None of them did, and that was what made it so ugly. But, we also wondered who's the new closer, and kind of Miguel Cairo wasn't going to tell us that. He said, well, you'll figure it out whenever the situation arises. Still hasn't arisen, and yet I think we found out because the last of the 9 relievers they had on their roster for this series was Jose A. Ferrer, who finally pitched out of necessity in the 8th inning of a blowout game. I think he's probably your guy now. Are they ever going to be in a position to close out a game? We'll see. They certainly were not in this series.
Yeah, and Ferrer did not look especially good on Sunday afternoon. Hey, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. Summer is starting to wind down in the DMV. Your air conditioning is working overtime, just trying to keep your house and you cool and comfortable. What can you do to make a difference? Well, you can replace your old or builder-grade windows with windows from Window Nation. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the following deal that you're about to hear about here on the Nats Chat podcast. This month only, you can schedule a consult and get 50% off all window styles. Plus, you could even get your windows with 0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for 2 years. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. Tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you. Window Nation windows are outstanding. They are custom made from high quality materials with precision fit. Bottom line, your home stays comfortable year round. Window Nation windows are even available in over 1,500 styles and colors. So you'll get the windows that you want to protect and beautify your home. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and over 3 million windows installed, you can trust Window Nation for quality and service. Hurry, this 50% off all windows sale ends August 31st. So don't miss out. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com. Schedule your estimate and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about Babbel. If you want to know what Luciano and Gustavo are saying on the broadcast on calls such as this one, then check out Babbel. And here's their special offer for Nats Chat listeners. 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/NatsChat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/NatsChat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/NatsChat. Babbel.com/NatsChat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
These statements have not been reviewed by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Do these 3 words make you cringe? Calcium oxalate stones. If so, then this message will be a huge relief, because now there's a kidney health supplement that has shown in laboratory tests to reduce the rate of calcium oxalate crystal growth by 99%. That's right, 99%. It's called Kidney Cop, Calcium Oxalate Protector, and nothing else comes close to its success. In fact, it has a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Kidney Kidney Cup is so innovative, it's been awarded 5 U.S. patents, is recommended by doctors and pharmacists, and is winning rave reviews from people all over the country. You can be one of them. Kidney Cup is super affordable. You can purchase affordable Kidney Cup today by visiting Amazon.com, Walmart.com, or KidneyCup.com. If you cringe when you hear the words calcium oxalate and you worry about reoccurrence, then you need Kidney Cup right away. Purchase Kidney Cup today at Amazon.com, Walmart.com, or KidneyCup.com.
1 ball, 2 strikes. There goes the runner to third. The pitch is low. Millis' throw is into left field. Durbin will come in and he'll score. And it's 5-1 Milwaukee. Nationals with 2 throwing errors in the inning. And the Brewers have cashed in on both.
No game for the Nats on Monday. Next up for them is a 3-game series against the American League West Worst Athletics at Nationals Park. Game 1 Tuesday evening at 6:45. Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 Wednesday evening at 6:45. The Nats starting pitcher is to be announced. Game 3 Thursday afternoon at 12:05. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. To be announced in terms of the starting pitcher for Wednesday evening. We've talked about who this might be. Who do you think it will be?
I still don't know. Shinosuke Ogasawara pitched in relief on Saturday, as you and Tim discussed. Looked pretty good for 3 innings. Came back out for that last one, and it started to fade on him. Certainly what he did on this team, that qualifies as good quality stuff. And maybe you say it should be him. The problem is he threw 60 pitches, and it would only be 3 days off that he would have. That's short rest if he were to pitch on Wednesday. I tried to ask Miguel Cairo the question, and he brushed it off and basically said, we'll get to that when we get there. So maybe it is, maybe it is not him. Cade Cavalli last started on Thursday at AAA. It was not good for him. He would be on full rotation rest if they wanted to go that way. The new guy they just picked up, could it be part of a bullpen game that they're going to try to do on Wednesday? It all sounds good until you consider who the bullpen arms are and the likelihood of, 5 of them combining to give you 9 quality innings against the A's. The answer is there is not a good answer to this question. There is nobody who clearly deserves that spot. Maybe there's another move to come. Clayton Beeter is one of the guys that they got in the trades. He has started before. He's been mostly a reliever. We'll see if he could figure into all this. There's not a good answer to the question. And when it comes to Cavalli, part of me says, hey, screw it. Let's just put him out there and find out, sink or swim, what he is the rest of the way. But he has not earned it. And if you're just setting him up for failure, is that worth it? Are you getting anything out of that to put him in a situation that you don't think is going to help you in the end? I don't know. So I don't love any of these options. I wish somebody had put together a handful of good quality appearances at AAA or in the bullpen here that made you say, okay, yes, this guy is worthy of it. Right now, there's nobody worthy of that assignment.
No, there's not. And, the Cade Cavalli conversation is really starting to remind me of the Jackson Rutledge conversation of the last few years, where you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's just not happening. Rutledge was taken with a first-round pick 1 year before Cavalli was, and the project has become a salvage operation now to where he's being used as a reliever, and he's not doing well as a reliever, as we know. Now, I'm not saying transitioning Cavalli to a reliever needs to happen just yet. Cavalli missed significant time due to the Tommy John surgery, but I do wonder if, say, a year from now, we're still having this same Cade Cavalli conversation, if maybe it's time to pull the plug on him as a starting pitcher and just admit defeat and maybe try to get something out of him as a reliever, because it already is pretty bad that he's not yet in the major league rotation, even given the injury difficulties that he has had, and that it is not a slam dunk that he's going to be called up to start this game on Wednesday evening says so much about where he's at in his development.
It's going to be a fascinating, I think, very telling decision for whoever is in charge of baseball operations this winter and going into next spring of what they do with Cade Cavalli. Do they stick with this and say, hey, yes, we still believe he's a long-term part of the plan here in the rotation? Do they do as you suggested and say, it's not happening in the rotation, let's give it one more shot in the bullpen? Or do they decide, especially if it's somebody new from the outside that isn't real keen on him for whatever reason, they decide, nope, let's cut ties. This isn't even worth it anymore. I've got a long way to go. We may still see him. Hopefully, we see him between now and then and get a little more of a sample of actual big league performances to go off of. But I think that could be a very telling thing for whoever makes that call to decide, Do they believe in this guy anymore, or do they not believe in him anymore?
It's rough right now. We appreciate everyone for listening. Hopefully things get better in this next series. The Athletics are really bad. And by the way, the Athletics, I get a kick out of this. They are the Athletics. You are not to refer to them by any particular city, at least for now. If you look at like official standings on, ESPN.com, that kind of thing, it's the Athletics. It's not, Milwaukee or Washington or Los Angeles. It's the Athletics. So make sure you refer to them in the proper manner.
I'm calling them Sacramento. I don't care. Those guys only get them for a handful of years until the new ballpark is built in Vegas. And it is finally under construction. So I guess it is officially happening. I've doubted that one for a long time, whether it would come to fruition. I don't care what they say. I'm calling them Sacramento. Let's make a vow here on the podcast. We're going to call them the Sacramento A's for this 3-game series.
Washington and Sacramento, a big-time tilt coming up this week at Nationals Park. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website you can check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt, and we appreciate the support very much. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas. He is the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason has been with us since our first season. You can reach him at 202-486-3535. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
2-2. This one is smoked center field and deep. This ballpark is not going to hold it. 3-run homer for Dylan Cruz. And the Red Wings, just like yesterday, have put up a massive top of the 6th inning.
Sacramento, where you at?
Have you ever had to put your plans on hold due to symptoms of generalized myasthenia gravis, or GMG? Like taking that weekend trip, talking with friends, or enjoying a meal. Learn about a treatment option that may help. Visit treatgmg.com to learn more. That's treatgmg.com.